A peace at any price deal in Ukraine would be a catastrophe for the U.S. and the free world. Hello, I'm Steve Forbes, and this is What's Ahead, where you get the insights you need to better navigate these turbulent times. President Donald Trump deserves praise for doggedly pursuing peace with some stunning successes in all parts of the world. But the biggest, most important unresolved conflict is the bloody war in Ukraine. And here, the danger is pushing a plan that would be seen as leading to the ultimate subjugation of that country by Putin. This would have horrific consequences, not only in Europe, but also in Asia and elsewhere. We should make no mistake. Our allies will see a flawed, forcefully imposed peace on Ukraine as prime evidence that the U.S. doesn't have the strategic vision to keep the world safe from the ugly imperial ambitions of our adversaries. They will sadly and anxiously conclude that the kind of steadfastness we showed during the 40-year Cold War no longer exists. They will draw conclusions that portend a less stable, less prosperous world. Beijing will be less inhibited in pursuing its ongoing efforts to establish de facto control of the South China Sea, a critical waterway for international commerce, and in instituting a modern version of the old tribute system where other states kowtowed to China. Countries would increasingly feel the necessity of bowing to Beijing's wishes, since they could no longer count on the U.S. as a reliable counterweight. The original Trump administration 28-point Ukraine peace plan read like it had been written by Putin himself. Ukraine would have to give up territory crucial to its defense, making it vulnerable to future attacks by Putin. The size of its armed forces would be capped. There'd be no stationing of foreign troops on its soil to deter future Kremlin assaults. Security guarantees without such forces wouldn't be worth the paper they're written on. After all, Russia promised in 1994 to respect Ukrainian independence in return for Kyiv giving up the nuclear weapons it had on its soil when the Soviet Union broke up. In 2015, the Kremlin agreed to a lasting ceasefire after it had seized Crimea. Both agreements have been obscenely violated. Fortunately, there has been blowback from a shocked Europe and security experts in our Congress. Britain, Germany, and France have drafted a 24-point proposal that calls for an immediate ceasefire before there'd be negotiations about Ukrainian territory. It would tighten up security guarantees by opening up the possibility of friendly foreign forces in Ukraine itself, and would use the $300 billion of frozen Russian assets in Europe to rebuild a country shattered by Putin's aggression. Talks are currently taking place between the administration, Europe, and Ukraine, but the likelihood of a plan that actually guarantees a truly independent Ukraine are nil. Putin believes he can realize his goal of subjugating Ukraine. He could then credibly threaten states that were once part of the Soviet Union, mainly Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, so they would become vassal states of the Kremlin. Putin would also pressure Poland and other Eastern and Central European states. Putin hopes to shatter NATO, the bulwark that won the Cold War and kept Europe peaceful until his 2022 invasion of his democratic neighbor. Putin's plan is simple: drag his feet until the U.S. loses patience and forces a virtual Ukrainian capitulation. Meantime, Putin's minions will push stories that Ukraine, beset by corruption scandals, will inevitably lose this war, thereby hoping gullible Americans will overlook the truth of the horrendous losses Russia is suffering to gain territory and the fact that if Kyiv were properly armed, it would push back the invaders. President Trump must not fall into the fateful trap of a phony peace plan. I'm Steve Forbes. Thanks for listening. Do send in your comments and suggestions, and I look forward to being with you soon again.